everyone, and welcome to an interview with. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the festival director and co-program director for Something Wicked Film Festival and events. And this is part of our show. What we're doing this time is interviewing some of our filmmakers for our Something Wicked DocuFest. As you know, we love to get in deep with our interviews in terms of our filmmakers. We like to ask them about their technique, their style, and not only that, but get into their films themselves so that when you're watching the films, you have a greater appreciation and understanding of what the filmmaker went for. So with me today is Leon McConnell. I'm saying it right? Yeah, there you go.
Anything with the L. I answered anything with an L except loser, so you actually got it right.
All right, and we're going to speak to him about his film A Place for Them, which is screening at this year's Something Wicked DocuFest. So first of all, Leon, what I'd like you to do is tell everybody first what you did on this film and tell us a little bit about the film.
So A Place for Them started out as a documentary I was making about childcare, which it that's how I met Ashley, who I co-directed the film with. And A Place for Them is about Ashley's experience with abortion and wanting to be a mother and her view of what has happened to her, like lost children, and all that is combined with she's a painter. She painted these paintings behind me, and so we sort of combined two pieces to make the A Place for Them, which is sort of just a conversation. Ashley was working in a show at a gallery here on bodily autonomy. It was a large show based on like bodily autonomy, and she painted this large piece for depicting a heaven
Mm-hmm.
for her lost children, and she filmed some of it, and that is what A Place for Them is. It's a discussion with Ashley regarding her feelings on abortion and motherhood and her lost children.
Interesting, because that's an interesting take on this subject matter, and I'm sure it is something that's not only just topical, but also a subject matter that needs to be talked about more instead of hidden
Yeah.
behind closed doors, and that's what drew me to your film. Among other things, the artwork, because I'm a huge fan of artists and art in particular. So the idea of the opening sequence of the film being her painting this beautiful picture and then her telling her story. And the thing is, she does it the way you edited it cuts that main picture that she's painting cuts throughout the
Yeah.
whole film until she's done with it and she's explaining her whole story. Now, we discussed a little bit about this before we did the interview, but I'd like to get your idea of how you came about doing this project with her.
Okay. So I actually, if you could see this one, can we
Yep.
this piece? So I saw this piece at a show, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's like amazing. And I just assumed it would be gone because it was selling. Ashley does not sell her work for enough money, and you can put that on the record. And I saw the piece and I'm like, I really wanted it, and I didn't have what I assumed like it would cost. And the guy I know who was throwing the show, he posted it later on Instagram, and I'm like, oh my God, I want it. I want it immediately. And so I bought it and he brought it over. And then a few months later, I met Ashley and bought another piece, this little one.
Oh yeah.
And um just over the course of probably, I have another one right here of like, I think over, uh, I have several of her pieces, but she painted this one.
Oh
Uh,
nice.
Over the course of like 3 years, I had ended up buying work from her, and it was purely like a art collector relationship. Um, and I was making a documentary on childcare, and actually has very strong feelings on children, and So I ended up talking to her more than I talked to anybody else for the documentary, quite a bit. And we started dating several months after that, not even then, like quite a bit later. And about a year or so later, she was in this art show. It's at a large gallery here in Los Angeles, Plaza de la Raza. They had a big show, and she painted that piece, which I think I don't know what the piece is called. It might be called A Place for Them. It might just be called Heaven or something. Like, because she believes that like there's a heaven, and the children she hasn't had are there, and they're there with her, I guess the easiest way to say it is like old father-in-law, and who was a very important figure to her. And I like the things she was saying so much, and I'm like, Ashley, these are like, this is really beautiful what you're saying. She's not a writer. She's only started working in film recently with me, and I'm like, we should really take like this little thing that you did and make it a bigger thing, and just sort of so people can watch it, because I think the things you're saying are really beautiful things, and this is your life experience, and this is something that people should be able to access, because I think it's something that speaks to a lot of people.
I agree. I think the conversation about abortion, or the what happens afterwards, because she speaks a lot about, because for everyone who's listening, in the film she talks about multiple different abortions she had, and that experience has changed her, which is amazing to see that as she's painting the picture.
Yeah.
It's almost like a poetry. You're visually watching a poem there, because she has this way of speaking over her images that actually, like, am I watching a poem here? I actually thought I was watching one to start the film off, because she was painting this picture, and then you're hearing this her story go over all of this until you actually cut to her. I was like, oh, okay, now we're back to the documentary style of making the movie.
Yeah, and as a documentary, like, I'm historically not a documentary filmmaker. I made a feature film, and I've made some short films, and this was just something that I have a lot of thoughts on like how we relate to children. I mean, we have all been children, and like maybe a lot of us will have children, and it's just so important to me. And like, coming from a very like lower status economic background, like my mom just had to like give us to whoever would take us. Like, she's a single mother, she had no money, just like, whoever will watch my children I'll take. And like, it's different to see that from the way my sister raises her children, because her children have been cared for very particularly, and have only had a few people in their lives. And like, Ashley herself, like, she has very strong feelings on raising children, which is why she has never had them, because she hasn't found herself in the place that she deserves. Children need to be reared, which is a different perspective on the whole abortion conversation. Because she loves children. She was a nanny for a long time, and she probably wants to be a mother more than anyone I've met. So it's a weird thing to talk about. I can't have these children because I don't feel that like I'm in a place where I can give them like what they deserve.
Yeah.
I don't think normal. That's not the norm. And abortion rights are so under attack here in the United States. And it's crazy, because I would hate if someone told me like, hey, you can't have a cheeseburger, and it's my body, I want a cheeseburger, not to minimize things, but just to put things in like the easiest perspective.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I think a lot of audience members will get out of the film when they're watching it. They're realizing that this is a story that they don't actually hear ever, really. You don't hear about the people who wish or had this ideal that they want children. They just don't believe that they are at that point in their lives where they can provide them with the best possible means that they can. I'm sure that that's a situation a lot of women feel that they're in, especially those in lower income homes or areas, stuff like that. And those are the stories that need to be told out there. But the way in which you depict it with the artistic expression is very well done. And I like to say that by the time she gets to the point where you're seeing the end of her picture and she's talking about this heaven-like place where one day she'll be reunited with her children. It's a beautiful statement. It's a beautiful statement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another thing is, I wanted to ask you. And I think you answered it a little bit. You wanted to get into your background as a filmmaker. What you know? I just want to know where you came from. Did you go to school? Did you learn?
Um, well, so I guess just the easiest way to say is I made a feature film. I've always been a writer, you know, I've always been a musician, and I started like exhibiting photography
Okay.
in my 20s, and it's just a matter of putting all the things together. Like I'm a writer and I'm a photographer and I went to school to study acting. Um and it just never clicked in my head like, oh, like this essentially makes you like a filmmaker, because I'm like, oh, you need a lot of money to make movies. Like it's a lot of work. And it was actually an ex-girlfriend like, why don't you like make a film? And I'm like, well, I don't have $1 million. How am I make a film? So I went to film school just for one semester, and I'm like, you start making short films, you know?
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, like I know how to do this. Like I can do this. And this the most like arrogant way. I'm like, I'm just gonna make a feature film. So I don't think I can legally say what I did to get the money to make a feature film. Because someone might go to jail. But I did what it took. I got about $10,000. And you know, a lot of that went to camera and computer, and like what
Mhm.
was left over was, you know, maybe about $5,000. And I used that to make my feature film, Homesick. It's on YouTube. It's crazy because most people are like, oh, I love the wallpaper. And I'm like, oh, that's what I spent 2 years of my life on, is like making sure you notice the wallpaper. So I made the feature film, and then uh, I just I don't particularly care for like the Hollywood machine, and so I've never really worked very hard at like finding a place in it. Like I probably as a writer is where I've like worked the most, because I mean, like if someone wants to give me money for something, I'm like, well, just take it and give me money, and like I don't have to be super involved, you know. So I've had a lot of scripts shopped around, and at some point, someone wanted to make one of my scripts. I think it's in film festivals right now. It's called Devotion, and I'm like, oh well, there's no way anyone would ever consider like letting me make this film, because like I don't have a lot of qualifications. So I started making more short films,
Mhm. Yep.
and I've made some short films. I've made some music videos. Um, It's only now that I'm like, oh, maybe I'll make another feature film. It's just very cost intensive. Like making
It's
is very expensive, and it's like very labor intensive, and it's hard to come to the point where like making a feature film, I literally spent doing nothing but 2 years of my life like working on this movie. You know, I went to work and I worked on the movie. And I'm like, there's never been a time where I'm like, oh, I want to spend another 2 or 3 years of my life like working on this thing, then get nothing for it. So I haven't made another feature. I would like to at some point, but
hard. It's hard.
yeah. So when the stuff I've made a couple things with Ashley, and as they presented it themselves, like the things I've made with her have been her idea. Like we work really well together as like collaborative artists.
Okay.
And so it's good to latch onto someone else's energy and say like, oh, I have these technical skills, like I have the history, like I know how to do this, and like you want to do this, so like I can make it happen, because like I know how to do it all. And as a filmmaker, I consider myself less a filmmaker than I would consider myself like a
Right.
writer or
Yeah.
a musician, because filmmaking is a very collaborative like art form, and like I'm a very controlling person. And so it's hard to like say, okay, I'm gonna take the time and the money to to spend on this thing that like won't get the same amount of like attention as a song that takes like 3 minutes for someone to listen to and gets played like thousands and thousands and thousands of times, you know? But I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. The reason why I asked the question is because my background is in independent film production as well, and I don't really adhere to the Hollywood aesthetic of filmmaking either. Hence why I do independent film festivals.
Yeah, yeah.
I enjoy watching different filmmakers from different backgrounds and different means. I've seen some films, I've screened some films, I've seen some films that had almost no budget, and I've seen some films that had some bigger budgets. This is either short films, features, fan films, a little bit student films, especially. I've seen a lot of stuff. And I never get tired of listening to how filmmakers come about to that process, whether it be like yours, you went to film school for one semester and then off to do a film. That's why I ask these questions, because there are some people who will go to school for 5 years and they will spend a whole hell of a long time just trying to get one script made instead. And then there's these other filmmakers who just shoot short films all the time but have never attempted a feature because they're like you. They're like, it's going to take a lot of money to do a feature, whereas on a short film, I can go out there and shoot it in relatively a weekend or 2 or 3 weekends, and it's much more manageable.
Yeah, that's the thing. Do you mind if I say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I have found, like, as a filmmaker, especially, my greatest skill coming in as a filmmaker is project management.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if you're a filmmaker, you gotta schedule, you have to budget, you have to make everything these like pieces that you can deal with. So like being a project manager is like what you are especially as a producer, but also as a director, but even as any sort of filmmaker, like it's this big thing. Like no matter what you're doing, you're not like shooting a video of yourself on your phone. Like it is a lot of moving parts and it takes a lot of project management.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I always like to get in these conversations because I have learned over the years, we all go to film school, we're all thinking we're going to be the next Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese. And I realized that I'm much better writer and producer and not so much a director. I know how to organize people to get a shoot done, but I'm not that guy who has the patience to direct all the time.
Yeah, I watched a documentary I was at a film festival recently, and I watched a documentary, and the guy who did the Never-Ending Story in Das Boot, I forget his name, famous director, and he is working with these small children, or like 10 years old or 12-year-old, whatever, in Never-Ending Story, and he's there and he's crying with them, and like. But he's also managing this like grand project. And like as a director, that's who you have to be. You have to feel so much about what needs to be said that you can bring in these children to tell this lie. And like it touches you so much that you cry over it, but then you sign the paperwork to make sure like this zillion-dollar budget continues operating smoothly. And like you have to work in both fields. And like as an artist, and especially more I think in filmmaking than anything else, you have to be aware of the moving parts of like the way it's all put together, but you also have to know the heart of it, like as a director, because that's what a film is. It's a piece of art. It's a great piece of art, but it's also a production that is a business that is like a large puzzle. So it's a matter of the heart and a matter of the mind and a matter of the hands, and like not everybody does all those. It's rare, I think.
Yeah, I agree. One day I might actually get there. I haven't directed a feature in a little over 10 years, 12 years, somewhere around there.
It's the same. It's a lot of work. It's a ton of work. I don't think anyone except other filmmakers is aware of how much making a film is, how much work it is.
Mm-hmm. And because I've been doing the film festival for almost a decade, I've only shot maybe 3 or 4 shorts, and I've starred in a little bit more because the acting part really doesn't require me to do a whole hell of a lot of work.
Exactly. I love acting. Someone's like, just show up and like Imagine things. And I'm like, show up and imagine things. That's all you want me to do. I mean, like, I did go to school for that. Like, I I didn't get a degree, but I went for several years and like just show up and imagine things and like I don't have to be concerned with fucking anything else. Like, I would love if more people asked me to do acting. Like, I only
Uh,
do it if somebody asked me because I worked as an actor for a while and I don't enjoy it. It's like so much rejection. Like just
it is.
rejection after rejection after rejection. I'm like, oh my God, like I don't enjoy this at all. It's hard to find your way in all this.
That's why I've learned that I just act in projects where my friends ask me to be in them. It's a lot less stressful for me.
Yeah.
But putting on a film festival is stressful.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's the same. I imagine it must be like similar amount of work as making a film. It's like so much organization, so much planning, so much scheduling, so much budgeting. Like you have so many moving parts.
Thankfully, this is like a well-oiled machine after a decade.
That's great.
All my work comes in towards the end, but my favorite part of this entire process is when I get to talk to you filmmakers, mostly because a lot of you are not local. When we were doing, because I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but we do actually 3 film festivals.
Okay.
2 of them are online / partially physical, and then our main one is all physical. We don't do any online component
Oh,
of that.
okay.
Something Wicked DocuFest started off as an online film festival, and we're slowly making it kind of a hybrid thing until next year when
Yeah.
we go full on physical.
Oh, okay.
We've got someone who wants to invest in making it an actual 100% physical film festival. It's just taken us 5 years because of COVID. COVID slowed everything down, slowed
Oh,
everything down to a crawl. But our other film festival, our main one, Something Wicked Film Festival, is 100% physical and
oh, I'd
requires
love to attend that. I would love to attend that.
that requires a lot more
Yeah.
attention. Uh,
Yeah.
the thing I get to do here that I don't get to do with that one is talk to filmmakers from all over the world. One of the filmmakers I just talked with is from India, and that's
Oh,
10
wow.
hours difference from here. So talking to him was very interesting. And that's the thing I like. The people who are watching this don't always get especially the local ones in Georgia, won't get a perspective of how films are being made in, say, California or
Yeah.
India or Switzerland or any of the other countries we have filmmakers from. This allows them to get an insight on it because we don't make Hollywood movies. If we were all making Hollywood movies, we wouldn't be showing films at film festivals. That's what selling them to a distributor is all about. We bypass.
Basically Coke in a limo, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
we let someone else deal with that.
yeah, yeah. Have
But
an associate producer talking to you right now.
if there was a huge producer talking to me, I'd probably be trying to shoot a movie too, just like all the other Hollywood bigwigs. But I enjoy this aspect because I went to film school 5.5 years. I'll admit that to the public. I went 5.5 years because I was lazy. But I wasn't lazy enough to get my degree in critique and analysis, not physical filmmaking, because I did that on my own, but critique and analysis, and hence why I like to talk to filmmakers. Because
Actually, I had a friend who I think she got her degree in there's a university, a large university right outside of Atlanta, and she got her degree in film critique and analysis. So it's funny that you hear that because I went there to visit her and she like got her degree. And I mean, like Georgia is a very like big film scene. Like you guys film so much stuff there, right? Because of the tax breaks.
It is now. If I have to admit that all that came after I graduated, it might seem like I'm much older than I actually look. But I graduated. I graduated before all that took effect. So I was still in the indie film scene here in Georgia when I was doing all my film work in the early 2000s, because that's when I graduated. And then, of course, it segued into this massive industry here in Georgia. So the
Yeah,
great
yeah.
thing about that is that we have people who like to watch independent film. We have people who are actually in independent films and in major Hollywood films, and that means that we have a bigger audience than maybe a lot of other states have for people who want to watch this type of material. So that's the good thing. That's the good thing. So
Thank you for putting on this festival, man.
Well, yeah, well, we're gonna keep going. We ain't stopping it too soon. My partners probably would kill me if I stopped it. It's one of their, it's one of the things they love to do is doing film festivals, which is why we're trying to do them. We're trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you gotta take the momentum. Let the momentum build the snowball bigger, right?
Exactly, and hopefully I'll get back into the director's chair, which brings me to my next question, which is, do you have any projects that you're working on now, or are you just working on this one as the travels film festivals?
Um, I do have projects that I have lined up. So, I
Since
have
you,
been a rapper since I was a small child,
oh,
like a very small child. So I want to do a documentary about freestyle hip hop.
okay,
I haven't started yet. It's just like in the notes, and I'll actually the next thing I'll probably shoot. I have two projects. The next thing I'll probably shoot is it's called Sermon and Runyon, and it is like Jesus is like Sermon on the Mount, but told here like in Hollywood or Runyon Canyon. Just like it'd be a short film. It's just like I had this idea, and I made one short film based on the Bible story Daniel and the Lion's Den,
okay.
uh, just like a modern retelling. So I also went to school to be a missionary, which is weird because I'm not. That's not what I'm like. It didn't work out. It didn't work out. In case you're wondering, like yeah. But I mean, I do follow the teachings of Jesus, and so like I'm like I like this stuff. Like I like lots of things, but here's one of the things I like, and like so I want to like convey these ideas, and like I think it's easy and it can be funny and it's something that people will connect with, like to just like I think sometimes there's a barrier between religion and people, and that's not the way it's meant to be. It's just sometimes it's rooted in these old things when
Yeah.
really they're simple ideas that apply to everyone's life. And that's the case for most religions, I think. So I'm gonna do Sermon and Runyon. It's gonna be like 3 minutes. It's just gonna be like Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, but like retold. I have the script, like it'd be easy to shoot. Um and I did a spoken word poetry album. So I was thinking of like throwing it all in there, man, doing the hard work and putting on like a real actual like film shoot, not an easy shoot, like which is like I could do an easy shoot. Like me and Ashley shot a video for a song I have called Booty Patrol. And um
Okay.
we just went to Venice Beach one day and like interviewed people, and then you chop it all up and like put it next to the song, and like you don't think a lot about that. Like that takes like it takes 5 hours to shoot, it takes 5 hours to edit, and like that's nothing. But I want to do a like I guess I mean you're at a film festival, a poetry film.
Yeah.
So I would take like one of the tracks from the spoken word poetry album and then shoot it as a film.
Mhm.
And I would look at like a larger budget for that, maybe something like 7 or 8 grand, and like probably like a 5 day shoot or something.
Okay. Okay. Well, we actually do take those.
Okay.
Excuse me. In my other film festival, that we kind of put those in the experimental category. So I've seen a lot of these, and that's actually something that's been I've seen a lot more of them over the last couple of years. Is these
Yeah.
poetry. That's why when I listen to your watch your film, that's how I saw it first.
Yeah.
Or like a poem. Because I watch so many of them now because it's becoming a trend where filmmakers can use spoken word as a means to tell a story instead of like it being a music video. Like
Yeah.
music videos is their own type of genre, and I think that spoken word poetry films is its own type of genre that just hasn't been grasped enough
Yeah.
by mainstream audiences. So it's
And as
still
a filmmaker, filming audio is super hard.
no,
So you bypass like the thing I love about I'm sorry I cut you off.
no, you're good.
Like the hardest thing about shooting anything is the audio, man. Like, and I'm like, I am not an audio engineer. Like I have a background in audio. Like I'm fine. But like it still doesn't come across like it's a lot of work. And then you have to sit there and then try and audio engineer. And I'm like, I'm not an audio engineer. And then like you want to hire audio engineer, and you're like, oh my God, I don't have the money to hire an audio engineer. And so like to bypass that, be like, okay, here's the track that has already been worked on by an audio engineer, that's already been recorded like in a studio setting. That's already, you're like, the track is as perfect as it's gonna get. And you're like, so you cut out the audio and you're still telling a story. And I think maybe that's why it's easier for people, because a music video is almost an experimental film in itself. It's just like it's based on this I think a music video is less experimental than a spoken word poetry film can be, because spoken poetry film can just be all over the place, you know, where a music video, it has more constraints. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, and music videos in this day and age now almost require the actual artist to be in the music video.
And I hate that. As an artist myself, I'm like, oh, look at I'm in my 40s. I'm old, man. Like no one wants to look at me. No one wants to look at me. I am the thing that like everyone's just like, no, well, I am a white, hetero, cis, middle-aged male. They're like, just go away. Just go away. No one wants to look at you. And I'm like, no, I'm still, I'm doing all this stuff. They're like, no, get a girl to be in front of the camera. No one wants to look at you. And I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. I don't like looking at myself, so I get it. Unfortunately, like I'm the one here. So.
Yeah. Well, you're the one who has to speak for your film.
I did a music video. The last music video I did is like that's like that, where I'm in it. I'm the person. And I'm like, after that, I'm like, oh my God, no. It's called Asshole. And I'm like, okay, like it's my music video, it's my song, it's about my life. Like, so I should be in it. And like I had to turn off the YouTube comments because people are like, oh my God, like I love the song, but why are you in it? I'm like, I'm sorry, I made this song. Like, wait.
That was your experiment on seeing if it would work.
Yeah.
And now you know that you've learned from that experience, and you'll take that into consideration when you make your next.
Oh, look at me.
Oh my God! All right, so are there any final things you'd like to say or to the audience about your film before they watch it, enjoy it, and know a little bit more about you?
Well, thank you for screening the film. Thank you for selecting the film. This is Ashley's experience. This is I mean, I am the filmmaker, but this is Ashley's story. And I've just been really happy to collaborate with her, and to find anyone that you can collaborate with is great, and that you work well together with. We made another experimental short film. You can go look for that. We are working on a children's story. It's called Stanley Turnstile, and we're working on a graphic novel about a Chihuahua who becomes a DJ.
That sounds a little interesting there. So,
but as far as this film goes, like, we're just happy that people get to watch it at all, because it's very personal to Ashley. And as a filmmaker, like, like you look at it, it's not aesthetically like a film a filmmaker wants to make, but like this is the way we had to make the film in order to tell the story. And I just hope people get to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a story that should be told, and people should be listening to it more often, especially in this day and age. Not only because it speaks about abortion and the fallout of that, but also because it speaks from an artist perspective. Yeah. And there's not enough films out there that actually either do that properly or actually do that in a way that makes it relevant to audiences. And I think that's what your film accomplishes. It takes art and makes it relevant by imposing this other ideal upon it, which is not only just the ideal of abortion, but also the ideal of the afterlife, or heaven as you see it, and how she sees it and represent it through her art. So I would like to thank you and Ashley for presenting allowing us to screen your film at Something Wicked DocuFest 2024. We wish the film nothing but continued success on its festival run. And when you get your next film done, remember we have the experimental category with Something Wicked Film
Oh
Festival.
yeah, yeah, for real, definitely. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you so much. I hope everyone out there has enjoyed this episode of an interview with. Make sure you check out all the films at this year's 2024 Something Wicked DocuFest. Also, make sure to check out any of the films that Leon has done in the past. We will make sure to try and post as many of that as possible because we want to continue to support our independent filmmakers. That is what Something Wicked Entertainment is about, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you later.